Hello, Paul, and Merry Christmas to you and all of your listeners.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Now, Melissa, I want to, first of all, you are a member of the Crawford County Republican Committee, and you also used to be the chair of that committee. Is that right?
That is true.
Okay. So you're the former chair. I just wanted, and so can I ask you how old you are? Is that rude of me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess it is considered.
It is considered rude.
Rude, but that is fine. Most people think I'm younger than I am, but I'm 35 years old. I'll turn 36 on the 19th.
I think that's to me that qualifies as conservative future. So you're, I believe, a young conservative, Melissa, and
well, thank you.
so tell me, how did you identify as a conservative? Has it always been that case? How did you develop conservative worldviews?
Well, Paul, first and foremost, I was raised in a Christian home by my parents, and I think for a lot of people, that's how your conservatism starts, because God set up different areas to govern our lives. He set up our parents, our family. He set up the government. A lot of people forget that God actually set up government, and he set up the church. So if you believe in our Lord Jesus Christ and you read the Bible, you'll realize that the Lord set up the strictures for government, and even in the Bible, he gives guidelines for each of those governing bodies. So that's, I believe, for me, where it starts. But beyond that, when I turned 18, I immediately registered to vote, and I selected Republican, and my first vote was for George Bush. And from there, I was just a voter, right? I think a lot of people in our state, and of course all over the nation, are just a voter. And so I started to notice that I would go to the polls and I was voting, and I really didn't know who I was voting for. And I was clicking Republican names. And so I finally got involved in the committee, and I took time to read the platforms, and I took time to read the GOP, the national platform, and I said, yes, absolutely, this is things that I believe. So that's where conservatism started. But beyond that, I actually, just to prepare for our call, I went out and I looked at the Webster's definition of conservative, and it's holding to traditional attitudes and values and cautious about change or innovation. And then it says, in the English, it's aiming to preserve. And that right there is really, it's the epitome of the word, isn't it? Preserving liberty, preserving freedom, and preserving individual God-given rights, and not letting man take those away from us.
Yeah, and it just dawned on me that maybe possibly that the label conservative. I mean, I know I know I want to preserve liberty and do all those things as well. But if you actually think about conservatism in the context of limited government, it's because we have a limited government that we were able to progress. In terms of, like, let's just take a free market economy. You know what I mean? Giving people the freedom to tinker in their garage and things like that. Actually, in restraining government regulation and everything else, it actually helps us, because I know one of those definitions said something about being skeptical of new things.
Cautious about change.
Yeah, cautious about change. The thing is, with technology and free market and everything else, I mean, the fact is the government that we instituted, back in the 18th century, up until that time, everything was pretty much the same. There hadn't been any big technological advances, and yet, 200 years later, there's a man on the moon. So something happened in that infancy. The systems that we set up, the attitude of
the maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul, and you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine here, and we need your help. One of the ways that you can contribute is to call us or text us. Our phone lines are open, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. We're also over at Facebook Live, facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. Feel free to sign off there, or sound off. That's what I'm trying to say, sound off. All right, so a couple of things. One thing that has to be addressed on this program today, and that is what happened in Alabama last night. There's no getting around it. There's no avoiding it, okay? You're going to have to talk about the fact that in Alabama, the Republicans lost, and now it's in deep red Alabama. They have a Democrat senator there for, a little while because he's totally going to lose the next time. We can all agree there. The question that I've got to ask right now is, who is happy about it? Well, obviously the Democrats are. The media is. They're very happy that the Democrat won. They see this as a weakness for the Trump administration, for the Republicans. The Republican establishment sees it as a massive victory because they can continue to, have some argument when it comes to saying, no, look, moderate Republicans that agree with Democrats on half of the things and disagree with them on the other half, that's really the way for power. That's how you get things done in Washington, right, is to cave. Now, first of all, the Democrats never cave on anything that they want. They very rarely, if ever, compromise. As a matter of fact, people are now saying, as a result of last night's election, they're now saying, uh-oh, the House is in trouble. The Senate majority hangs by a thread, and the House is in trouble. And I got to thinking in this whole establishment Republican and anti-establishment Republican war that's going on. If the Democrats controlled the Senate and the House, do you think that they would have already impeached President Donald Trump? The answer is they would have already called for his impeachment. There would already be impeachment proceedings, just so you know. And yet you had President Obama that had several impeachable offenses, and you had they never even attempted it because they they wouldn't get anything done without their Democrat counterparts. They wouldn't continue moving the country in the same direction and just having these little theatrical disputes. So let's talk about Roy Moore for a second. The establishment is going to want you to think that the reason Roy Moore lost is because he was a staunch conservative. That's the reason. He was a staunch conservative that talked about the Ten Commandments, that, stood against a big government, that, talked in simple terms. There'd be some Arkansas establishment Republicans that would be like, he wasn't intellectual enough. If he'd been a little bit more intellectual, he might have won. That's what Arkansas. I wonder if Asa Hutchinson is happy that Roy Moore lost. What do you think? Okay, so that's the first thing. They're going to want you to think that that's the reason this all happened, okay? Now, of course, the other side of this are the accusations of sexual misconduct against Roy Moore that allegedly happened 30 or 40 years ago. I think honestly, and then like half of the country just not believing any of them, and half of the country not believing the Washington Post. We really still don't know that phenomenon. What is that going to do in the future with other stories? Okay, because the American people have plenty of evidence and reason to not believe a word, a single word, from the likes of the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN. They have a right to not believe any of it because there's so much evidence of not just bias anymore, outright lying. Okay? So I mean, the division in this country is amazing right now. We really still don't know what that's going to lead to. Like, what other results secondary to just people, just half the country, just disregarding a lot of mainstream media reports on, potential sexual harassment or misconduct or whatever you want to say. The fact of the matter is, Roy Moore, the staunch conservative, plain-spoken, talked about the Ten Commandments, talked about his faith in God. The fact of the matter is he would have won yesterday in a landslide if it weren't for those allegations. Has nothing to do with being anti-establishment. There's no doubt about Roy Moore's anti-establishment, but do not let the establishment Republicans tell you, well, that's the reason he lost, is because, no, he lost because of the allegations against him, period. That's why he lost. If those allegations don't come out, if potentially if Mitch McConnell and everybody else don't immediately pile on and say he's got to go, you see, Mitch McConnell and the establishment, they're going to be able to work with Doug Jones, and they're now avoiding having to think about immigration policy, right? Think about Mo Brooks. Mo Brooks was in the primary. But it was Roy Moore, Luther Strange, and Mo Brooks. And Congressman Mo Brooks, by the way, who announced today on the House floor that he's got prostate cancer, and he actually said losing that Senate race may have saved his life, because now he's going to go have surgery. Anyway, it's pretty serious stage of prostate cancer, according to reports. Congressman Mo Brooks from Alabama. But the fact is, he's not establishment, and yet he was gonna run, and yet Mitch McConnell and the establishment did everything they could to make sure that didn't happen as well. So it's not like there weren't. It's just not like the establishment doesn't have some blame here as well. By the way, I mean, it's just if you go look at the broad picture, that's all I'm saying. So it's all about the allegations. This election is not a rejection of anti-establishment. It just shows that the establishment would actually rather have Democrats than conservative platform Republicans. They would rather have the likes of Jeff Flake, John Kasich, Alabama Senator Richard Shelby, Mitch McConnell. They all wanted a Democrat over Roy Moore. And they wanted a Democrat over Roy Moore before the allegations. Let me say that again. They wanted a Democrat over Roy Moore before the allegations of sexual misconduct that cost Roy Moore the race. And also, obviously you have an enthusiasm gap, because the Democrats are like, okay, he's vulnerable, let's turn out and vote. And you probably had a lot of Republicans that were just like, I don't even want to make this decision. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't even want to make this decision. But can we talk about the fact that Alabama did elect somebody who's pro-abortion? That's crazy. That's crazy. We can also talk about the fact that, the mainstream media, it was a close race. Okay, if it was any other state, it probably would have been Doug Jones would have won, because the allegations would have really done it. But it is crazy that it's 50-50 pretty much, and you have an entire state that where he's still competitive at. It just shows you how Alabama doesn't trust the mainstream media. If Alabama trusted the mainstream media, then Roy Moore would have lost in a landslide. Anyway, it was a crazy. It's been a crazy couple of weeks with all of that, and I just wanted to address it because the establishment is going to have you. They want you to think, well, he's conservative, and that's the reason why. And it's really the allegations, and I mean that's all there was to it. I mean, platform issues and even populist issues to an extent. That's what the people want, but they don't want someone who also is being associated with, whether true or not, is being associated with immoral acts and character flaws. And that's what's so interesting about all this. You want to know why the establishment and the deep state can't stand Donald Trump? It's because Donald Trump is so honest about who he is, warts and all. It's because that's how all of them are, for the most part, behind closed doors. They're just like Donald Trump behind closed doors. But Donald Trump is like, I'm not going to play this theater. I'm not going to perform. I'm not going to be somebody I'm not. That's what was so refreshing about Donald Trump. And, of course, now the sexual misconduct allegations that started in Hollywood and went into Alabama and have also really, if you look at global headlines, have affected, other countries as well. Now they're going, which is the most ironic thing in the world, considering the Democrats are the party of Bill Clinton. But it's going to be absolutely brutal in the next coming months, attacks against the White House. And last night will be the fuel for that. Hey, remember when I reported about Arkansas sealed indictments? Remember that? Joe, do you remember that? Okay, so we had this on the show where we had 15 sealed indictments that were filed in the Western District of Arkansas. You had like 7 at the time that were filed, and the number has gone up. And the interesting thing was these indictments were filed from the end of October through like the middle of November. Okay, that was what was so interesting to me. It was a lot that came in at the same time. Now, the Talk Business and Politics article, they mentioned the fact that we first reported on this, and they dismissed it and said it's probably a drug scheme. It's probably a drug thing. It probably has nothing to do with the FBI investigation into Arkansas General Assembly persons. Okay? So they're dismissing it, saying that's not their sources. They had federal sources a federal source that told them that it had nothing to do with it. Okay? Well, so here's what's interesting. It wasn't just Arkansas. It's not just Arkansas that has seen an unusual amount of sealed indictments filed since October 30th. It's actually happening all across the country. And you can go look it up. It's happening all across the country. There are obscure reports about it on the bowels of the internet and everything else. Well, one of those indictments that was sealed, and according to reports, filed during that same period, October 30th to November 22nd, was unsealed a few days ago out of Massachusetts. And look at this. It has to do with a state senator in Massachusetts. Now, this is just interesting fodder. It could mean nothing, but think about it. Hundreds of pounds of Dunkin' Donuts coffee, part of bribery charges for Massachusetts state senator. A high-ranking Massachusetts lawmaker has been arrested and charged in a 113-count indictment that accuses him of running his state senator office as a, quote, criminal enterprise that netted him $1 million in kickbacks and bribes. Federal prosecutors announced back on, this was the 9th, December the 9th, okay? The 102-page indictment charges him with racketeering, extortion, honest services fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to defraud the IRS, and other charges. Senator Brian Joyce, a former Democratic Assistant Majority Leader in the Massachusetts State House, was led out of his home in the Tonytown. It's got to be Tonytown? Tiny town. Is that supposed to say tiny? Or they actually mean Tony, like the Tony Awards? In the tiny town of Westport shortly before sunrise on December 8th, FBI Special Agent in charge of Boston, Hank Shaw, said, adding that Joyce was, quote, greedy, plain and simple. The arrest came after, listen, the arrest came after a 2-year investigation that is ongoing, according to Acting United States Attorney William Weinreb. Brian Joyce represented over 100,000 Massachusetts citizens in the state legislature. He had a duty to serve them honestly, and he violated that duty by accepting bribes and kickbacks in exchange for his official action. Oh, man. If an Arkansas politician reads this, that would have to make them nervous. Joyce, Weinreb added, ran his Senate office as a criminal enterprise. Joyce is accused, for example, of accepting hundreds of pounds of Dunkin' Donuts coffee in exchange for helping a franchise owner navigate the permitting process by pressuring town administrators in his district for favors. He's also accused of using his office to help an insurance company who paid him with a free Jeep and writing legislation to help Philadelphia-based solar energy company in exchange for $50,000 in payoffs. Prosecutors say Joyce used his law practice, which while working as a full-time legislator, to launch the proceeds of his schemes, falsely characterizing the bribe and kickback payments as legal referral fees. So he's saying they're legal fees and they're kickback fees. Again, this happened in Massachusetts. It's an indictment that was sealed, is now unsealed, and if you look, it's part of from what I can tell, according to reports, it was filed in the same time period that all these Arkansas indictments hit, sealed ones. I just find it interesting. Who knows? Maybe reading about a lot of these in the future. We got to take a break, folks. We'll be back in just a moment with State Representative Marcus Richmond, who will tell us what Christmas means to him. Back in a minute.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas. Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk Radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision-makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
It's a PHP parody.
Hey, man, you got any of that marble rock?
Yeah, I've got the hookup.
Thanks. I need a fix real bad. I'm itching to grow some government.
How much you need?
I'm gonna need a taxpayer's dime bag.
No problem, sir. 1 taxpayer dime of marble rock. Enjoy.
Thanks, man. They don't call it Little Rock for nothing. Am I right?
Did you know your state representative or state senator may be addicted to growing government? The drug is called marble rock, and too much of it will cause marble fever. Watch for the warning signs. Does your legislator suddenly display a lack of humility when faced with basic questions? Does he or she suddenly develop hubris and pride that was not present during the campaign for office? These are signs they might be smoking the terrible drug, marble rock. The solution? Detox. Vote for detox. Vote to send them home for their own good. Warning, some politicians once voted out of office will not go home and stay in Little Rock to get their fix by lobbying, also known as the Burris Syndrome.
PHP Parody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. Merry Christmas to you. Welcome back to the program. We have State Representative Marcus Richmond is with us. Marcus, welcome back, sir.
Hey, my pleasure to be back. Thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. So these are just little short segments we're doing with Arkansas politicos. So State Representative Marcus Richmond, what does Christmas mean to you?
Well, I tell you what, Christmas, first of all, means the fact that that our Lord and Savior came to this earth as a gift, was given to us by God, and gives us an opportunity to be able to live with God once we've passed from this life. And that's probably the most important thing about it when you look at it, besides the commercialization that we have, of course. And I'm a victim of that, too. I love buying things for the family and the grandkids and that type of stuff. But I always try to reflect back to what it meant on that very first Christmas that happened over in Bethlehem.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a light switch, going from no hope to hope.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what it was. I mean, to me, I think it was, God was possibly giving us a chance here. It looks like to me that as far as He was so perfect and so far above that maybe He didn't quite understand our sin, and it separated us from Him. And His willingness to send His Son down, and for that gift that we got, to go through everything that He went through, to suffer the way He did, brought back somebody that could stand between us and God and say, I understand what man goes through. There's an opportunity for forgiveness here. And, it's almost beyond description as far as being able to understand the full benefit of the birth of Christ. And then, I can't help but remember back when I was a little kid, how special Christmas was and Santa Claus and all that, because, I grew up on a dairy farm, and when I was especially little, the folks would have to go over and milk those cows starting like 4:30 in the morning. They'd be back an hour and a half later, and that's when we would have Christmas and coffee and stuff. And we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have any money. But there was always something from Santa Claus and always something under the tree for the kids.
Yeah.
And that's what it was about.
Yeah. State Representative Marcus Richmond, I so appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Well, Merry Christmas, Paul. This is tremendous, and you guys keep doing the great work.
All right, we will. Thank you, sir. I loved what he said about how it's almost incomprehensible, and it is true. The gospel of Jesus Christ is inexhaustible, and we can never really completely understand it because a created thing can never fully comprehend what created it. But I'm sure glad we get to celebrate the birth of Christ. Back in a minute.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Our people for the first 100 years was, I don't need a handout, or I don't need government to do X, Y, Z. I've got this, and they understood the benefits of the liberty, I think, better than we do now, for sure.
Absolutely. I was speaking with Heidi Cruz back during her husband's campaign when she came to visit the Arkansas women, Republican women. And we were speaking, and I said, I don't need government to give me a handout. I need them to take things, move them out of the way so that I can have opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're cautious about jumping to the new thing, we can take the time to actually look through the possibilities, make sure that what we're moving forward towards is not going to take away from the good things that we have had already.
Yeah.
When you talk about technology, last night I was reading an article by Infamous from Hillsdale College, and they had scientist Craig Chester that had come and had spoken, and he works at an observatory in the United States here that is completely privately funded, the Institute for Research in Astronomy, Monterey's the Mira Institute. And they were talking about the wise men and following the star and the song we sing, and he went into actually saying, it was actually astronomical events that were happening that made them take notice of the Christ child being born.
Yeah.
And, it brings it back to that our God is a God of miracles and a God of the mystical. And sometimes with the technology and the change and the new, it is easy in this day and age to forget that God gave us rights, that he set our course for us already, and that we diminish those rights when we legislate and grab hold of power just to hold on to it, just to control it, because God's the one that's supposed to be in control.
Yeah, there's a lot of documentaries or studies about, they're trying to find, the Christmas star, this time, this is the general, window where we think Jesus was born, and then, what astronomical, things happened that were conspicuous in that time. And so there was a documentary I watched that was fascinating. I think it was just called The Christmas Star. And it was really, really neat to look at that, to look into that, and we can of course do that now with the technology that we have. We're talking with Melissa Kohler. This is our Conservative Future segment. I think you can tell just by speaking with her that she certainly is, a conservative and is going to be around for a long time in this movement. So can I ask you this, Melissa, Arkansas politics, the Republican Party, I mean, do you admit that there's a divide in the Republican Party? And if you do see a divide, because I see one, if you see it, what do you think needs to happen moving forward?
There is a divide. And I'll tell you,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. The telephone number to call us or text us is 870-275-9799. And this segment, next segment, is brought to you by the great patriots of Act 746. They are on a mission to educate the entire state and also people outside the state. The ones that give you like maps, color-coded maps about which states are, more pro-gun than other states. Well, they're on a mission to educate everybody that Arkansas is a constitutional carry state, and the Second Amendment is really all that we need to exercise our Second Amendment rights to protect ourselves. But Act 746 actually makes constitutional carry a reality here in Arkansas, clarifies that we have the ability to open carry and all kinds of things. It's really simple, actually. And joining us now to talk more about this, I want to introduce you. We got Mr. Jeremy Sullivan on the program.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm doing good. Now, Jeremy, you're a member of the Patriots of Act 746, but you're also the president of the Arkansas Dog Hunters Association. That's probably the coolest title that anybody could be given, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get a lot of jokes about that. They wonder where we're hunting the dogs at.
Well, I think, yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, that could be misconstrued. Oh man, that's good. But so first of all, tell us about Patriots Vec 746 in terms of just like how you first became aware and became a member of this Facebook group.
Well, I do a lot of Facebook, as everybody else does probably, and I met Mr. Gary Epperson probably 3 or 4 years ago, and gotten to know Gary really good over the past 3 years. And believe it or not, just about everybody in my association are pretty much in line with the people in POA. I mean, we are hunters. We have to have guns to be able to hunt. I understand that that's not what the Second Amendment right is about, but if taken away, we definitely wouldn't be able to do what we'd like to do. So
good.
That's kind of how we align with anybody that's trying to protect the Second Amendment right.
So I want to break here from the gun conversation, and I want to revisit that here in just a little bit because we do have some new developments on enhanced carry. I want to talk about that, but I want to talk about a feral hog problem that we have, and apparently, wait for it, there's a task force on what to do with feral hogs. Now, are you on that task force?
I am.
Okay, so I mean, pretend like people out there know absolutely nothing about this problem, and and start from there.
Well, in 2013, I never dreamed that I'd be going to the state capitol or to a task force over feral hogs in Arkansas to start out with. Believe it or not, it's a large topic at the Capitol and has a lot of attention at the Capitol. In 2017, Representative Kim Hammer created the Feral Hog Task Force of Arkansas. There's several task forces in other states. The one in Missouri has been running since '91, and they've yet to eradicate the hogs in Missouri. I feel like that eradicating feral hogs is something that the numbers need to be knocked down in Arkansas, but I think we're going about it the wrong direction.
Really? So you're saying right now our efforts to contain or eliminate are not good. So what do we need to do about it?
Well, at the current time, we are relying on state agencies to spend taxpayer money and try to eradicate hogs while leaving the public out of the operation. I'm a starch believer in capitalism and the free market. I believe that the public can do just as much good, if not more good, than taxpayer dollars given to state agencies. I feel like this eradication with feral hogs in the state of Arkansas will be kind of like the war on drugs with President Reagan. We'll throw millions and millions of dollars at it, but we'll never actually solve the problem.
That is very interesting. Yeah, because you would think, the goal is to kill the hogs, right? I mean, that's the goal.
That is correct.
Okay, well, so then why wouldn't you utilize private citizens who who have guns, are willing to use their own guns and buy the ammo for those guns and, go kill some hogs, but,
Well, currently there is a open market for feral hogs. A lot of people do not know that President Trump has put out the word that China and Asia and different places overseas must start showing their support to the United States. They just opened up the beef embargo to China, and believe it or not, the feral hog has also opened up into China. There are millions of dollars that the French, the European, and also the Chinese are willing to spend to put back in Arkansas if we could produce feral hogs for them. There are 3 companies currently in the state of Texas that would love to open up shop here in Arkansas tomorrow if the transport ban was lifted in the state of Arkansas.
Okay.
This would put money directly back in the state. This would not cost the taxpayers a dime. There are a lot of slaughter facilities, small custom slaughter facilities here in the state of Arkansas that would love to get in on the action also. But currently that is not an option because the USDA says that you cannot transport all hogs through the USDA have to be brought in alive to be processed. And currently, you cannot bring a live feral hog to market anywhere in the state of Arkansas.
Okay, so you've got a USDA issue. Tell me about the Arkansas Game and Fish issue. They're obviously involved in this, right?
Sure. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission basically is strong-arming the idea that, transport is a bad thing. And I do agree wholeheartedly that in the past there has been relocation of hogs. But instead of, trying to catch our problem people and catch people doing wrong, we're trying to punish the whole lot of people in the state of Arkansas that are involved in hog trapping or hog killing. I'm all in agreement that if the Game and Fish Commission can catch someone actually turning hogs loose or relocating hogs, they should have a trigger mechanism to pin those folks down. But people trying to make a living or trying to feed themselves, I think shouldn't have anything to do with the Game and Fish.
So you're saying that there is out there right now, because of a potential export opportunity, a profit motive concerning this problem of feral hogs in Arkansas, and you're saying that there are regulations that are preventing people who would love to come in here, try to make money, and start to ship the meat overseas?
That is correct. That is correct.
Wow. That is
it is a
news to me.
large market in Texas right now. Also, Oklahoma has opened up. They're starting to sell feral hog meat overseas.
Oh my gosh!
Also, Louisiana.
And so you're saying Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana are doing it, and we're not doing it? That's I'm not surprised.
That's crazy.
Oh my goodness! Gosh, I mean, come on. That's so frustrating to me. We're talking with Jeremy Sullivan. He's the president of the Arkansas Dog Hunters Association. He's also on the Feral Hog Task Force. So, are you a minority? Is this opinion of yours a minority? I mean, I would imagine that it is.
No, not necessarily. They did a survey. The Game and Fish, actually, the Arkansas Ag Department put out a survey whenever we first started the Feral Hog Task Force, and I'm going to say 60% of the people requested that the public be involved in, the removal of feral hogs, be it a bounty or, some kind of live buying station or something like that.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
everybody wants the hogs gone, and I want the hogs gone too. I just think that the public, there should be an opportunity to make a profit for the state of Arkansas instead of taxpayers spending money to try to solve the problem.
Yeah, it's really ironic considering the mascot of the University of Arkansas that we're the only state that's like trying to stop this. I mean, in a way, you think we should be the hog experts.
That's correct.
but that doesn't seem to be the case. It's not happening here. All right, so can you? So they want the public involved. I mean, I remember I was talking to a guy the other day. When he was growing up, I think he grew up in Idaho, and he was saying,
sure.
Me and my friends, we'd go out, and we knew how much you got for each coyote you killed, and that there was the farmer, or the landowner who would pay these kids money, to go out and eliminate these coyotes because it was a value. And there's this, like you said, you mentioned a bounty. I mean, that would be.
Well, Paul, I'll revert back to the buffalo. We almost the American public almost exterminated the buffalo in the whole United States due to a pelt bounty.
Mm-hmm.
This could happen also with feral hogs. But a bounty to me is a tax incentive. It has to be paid either out by the county or by the state. I do not agree with that method. I don't think a bounty system would work.
Okay.
I think free market and capitalism is the way.
Yeah.
If a man wants to try his goal at catching feral hogs and he's good at it, he'll make money at it. If he doesn't, he'll go out of business.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So there would be an incentive for you to work with the private entity that's got the connection to sell overseas and that sort of thing. I mean, there would be a way.
Bet.
Yeah, I agree with
that. And I'm all about the Game and Fish Commission doing what they do and keep on trapping on public state land. But I don't see the need for them guys to come on to private land and trap feral hogs whenever normal ranchers and the public can do it.
Yeah, and then they could make the arrangements with whoever they want to make arrangements with. But yeah, so which regulation is it that would enable? I mean, if Louisiana and Texas and Oklahoma are doing this, it's not a federal regulation; it's got to be a state regulation, right?
It is a state regulation. That is correct. In 2013, they created the no transport ban on feral hogs, and it's been that way since 2013. There were, at that time, 4 high-fence kill facilities in the state of Arkansas that was killing around 300 to 500 hogs a year. And Livestock and Poultry and Game and Fish Commission has since shut those guys down. So,
wow.
That's about 1,200 to 1,500 hogs that were being killed that's not being killed now.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, Jeremy Sullivan, tell me real quick. I'm going to move on here, but what is the Arkansas Dog Hunters Association? You're the president of the Arkansas Dog Hunters Association. So what's your goal there?
Well, we are modeling our association off of Virginia's Hunting Dog Alliance. They have 87,000 members. Basically, it is revolved around dog hunting as the center, but we are a political action group. We try to make sure that we help people get elected in positions that may not be in favor exactly of what we do, but they are in favor of smaller government and leaving people alone.
Hey, I can get behind that.
We just want to be left alone.
Mm-hmm. I can get behind that. Real quick, there's news that broke on this enhanced carry. Instructors shoot down proposed enhanced carry rules. That headline by Jesse Turner, Arkansas Matters. It's fascinating that they came out with this new enhanced carry law, and it's actually caused so many more unintended consequences than they could imagine, and that's because the governor, as well as other Republicans, they really were just trying to get a political victory, the appearance of a political victory, instead of actually thinking how putting more red tape in between us and our Second Amendment rights was actually going to affect what the current red tape is, which is the concealed carry license in and of itself. It's a real failure, and now you have concealed carry instructors who've thrown a fit, rightly so, and so now they're taking the new rules under this law and they're sending it back to the Arkansas Legislative Council, and they're having a full meeting on this on Friday. I am told by an inside source that one of the reasons this happened is because activists who are pro-Second Amendment and not pro-regulation, they had inside information that has not yet been released to the public, and legislators knew they had that inside information about how dysfunctional this whole thing is, and that's why it's now going back to the Arkansas Legislative Council. So that's the update on the enhanced carry mess that the government has created. And I would just wonder, Jeremy, are you familiar with what they did with the enhanced carry, and what are your thoughts on that?
I keep up with the concealed carry and the enhanced carry, probably not as much as some people in the state do, but it ties right in with my association. I mean, everyone that's involved with what I do depends on the Second Amendment, and I will rank the concealed carry and the enhanced carry right up there with the occupational licensing fee. To me, I am not responsible for paying a tax to gain my rights back. I should have those rights regardless, with the government nowhere involved.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a really good answer, Jeremy. That's a really good answer. I really appreciate you coming on for this edition of Patriots of Act 746 segment, and I'd love to have you on again soon. Jeremy Sullivan, president of the Arkansas Dog Hunters Association. Love to have you back, and it was nice meeting you.
Paul, thank you very much. I had a good time.
All righty. Well, you be safe and have a Merry Christmas, okay?
You too. Thank you.
All right. Hey, folks, you know what he was saying earlier about how to tax the hogs or the collection thereof, and how, a bounty system. I hope Asa Hutchinson wasn't listening, because if Asa Hutchinson was listening and he can find a way to tax the collection of hogs, he will, because we're in a budget crisis nobody wants to talk about. We got to take a break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media. Back in a minute.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media. If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
This is Mother Government. My people. The promised revenue gathering to fund my motherly goals, such as the Arkansas Works, Obamacare, private option has commenced. I have asked my representatives and senators to execute my will concerning new revenues from the tires you use to drive on my roads, the candy and sodas you consume and purchase in my stores, and the digital products you download on my internet. Your sacrifices and tributes, which are owed, display a measure of obedience, but there are still collectible sacrifices I require from the people to increase the work and size of our great government of Arkansas. There are two matters left unresolved. 1. I require a general tribute for all purchases made on my internet. Not just digital products, but all products. My dear children, there are those who would thwart my motherly goals of progress. If you see them, please combat their misguided notions of freedom by using phrases like mom and pop, and tax cheat. 2. I still require more revenue sacrifices concerning your consumption of my gasoline. I require your undying loyalty on the subject. Subjects, in conclusion. More revenue is good. Static revenue is bad. This message was brought to you by your stewards, aristocrats serving Arkansas. Thank you, my children, in advance for your required and expected obedience that keeps society safe and prosperous. And always remember, from cradle to grave.
PHP Parody.
All right, thanks. We want to thank Mr. Jeremy Sullivan for coming on the program. Again, the president of the Arkansas Dog Hunters Association. I didn't even know that exists, but he did make a funny joke. I mean, no, they're not hunting dogs, but that's pretty funny. And if you want more, I just want to say, on this, instructors are shooting down the proposed enhanced carry rules. It's because we had a bunch of politicians down there trying to tinker with your gun rights, and they didn't care about what they were actually doing because it got lost. Originally, they did. Originally, it was just about we're going to let professors carry on a college campus. And in order to protect Governor Asa Hutchinson from, political fallout for opposing that, and killing the bill, they made some sort of mutant bill, and we have terrible results from it because, it's ridiculous. Coming up in just a moment, we're going to be talking at the top of this next hour. I don't want you to go anywhere because we're going to be talking with Dr. Jim Phillips, okay? Dr. Jim Phillips, we're going to be talking about the Arkansas Dental Association as well as, remind me, what's the name again? Arkansas State Board of Dental Examiners. Dr. Jim Phillips is the former president of the Arkansas State Board of Dental Examiners. He's on next to talk about the unprecedented move that happened, a couple weeks ago, where Governor Hutchinson did not take the recommendation of the board or the association of who they wanted to hire or who they wanted to give an appointment. Instead, and we mentioned this briefly. It was these corporate, national entities that come in, they set up shop, and we're going to talk more about that here in a minute. But this is kind of a long series of large constituency groups that I believe Governor Asa Hutchinson is angering, because I know he angered the farmers when he did what he did with the plant board. I also know he angered, some optometrists because he didn't pick who they selected either for their boards. And then now we've got the dental board. And who else? Who else knows what other large constituency groups of people who are affluent and vote? Okay, is he upsetting? We'll talk more about that coming up at the top of the next hour. Also, we missed it last week, but we do have a Conduit for Action quiz on occupational licensing, so get ready for that. Also, we have another article about Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin on occupational licensing, so we certainly want to those are going to go together very well, okay? And I want to talk about, I can just talk about this now because we got a little time. There's a special election that's going to be held in Greenbrier. And anytime you hear the word special election, we have to thank State Representative James Sturch from Batesville, because State Representative James Sturch from Batesville killed special election reform. He walked out on special election reform. He voted for special election reform, which would have ended special elections in the way we think of them now. And then he got up out of his seat right when his name was called so the bill would fail after he got a text message. So when you read this headline that Greenbrier proposes a tax increase to fund city projects, it's weird that you have in Greenbrier, it's not anywhere close to Independence County, and you've got Greenbrier saying, the citizens there are going to be taken advantage of, and the tax increase will likely pass because it won't be held in a general election where more people show up to vote. Special elections are a soft tyranny that take more and more money from us, and we have the statistics to prove it. There was even a CFA quiz on that. When you have your tax increase in a special election, you've got like a 70% chance of passing it. Okay, like when you have your tax increase in a general election, historically since the 80s, they fail like a vast majority of the time. I think it's like 60% fail rate or something. I'll have to. We're going to look those statistics up before I'm going to revisit this next hour, okay? Don't go anywhere, folks. We got one more hour coming your way next. Merry Christmas to you. Back in a minute.
Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
One interesting thing I've taken note of for probably a little over a year. First time I heard it was in a District 3 meeting when I was chair. I heard it again at our winter meeting, that the party, through our chairman, is inviting Democrat officials to change parties and become Republican. You know, we even had 2 representatives that changed parties here in January after they'd won the election. That's how we got our super majority that everyone became so excited about. And I think that shows an absolute divide right there, because when you look at the platform, now I'll admit the new 2016 platform is not the platform I thought we were voting in. But when you look at both the GOP platform and the platform of the Republican Party of Arkansas, it talks about limited government, at least the GOP platform does, separation of powers, federalism, the rights of the people, that they must be preserved, uncompromised for future generations. Political freedom and economic freedom are indivisible, and that political freedom and economic freedom are separated. When they're separated, they're in peril, but when they're united, they're invincible. And so that platform is so completely opposite of the Democrat platform. So when we go out and we ask officials that have been elected on that opposite platform to just change your allegiance, can a person do that, Paul? Can they take – because for me, what they're talking about is just not a party platform. It is the true ethics of what I believe, part of how I actually live my day-to-day life, how I walk out and make my decisions, both in my family business, in my personal business, in how I raise my daughter and how I go about my day. Those types of principles, they're the building blocks of who I am. So when you go out and you send out this invitation, hey, well, you want to change parties, because, I mean, obviously the Republicans are winning in Arkansas at this time. Well, did they really change who they are? Because for all these years before, they've been signing that Democrat platform, running as a Democrat. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I think it's the whole point of the conservative movement here in Arkansas and across the whole nation, Paul, is that conservatives, the building block people that have grown up, you know, I know there are people different from me out there, and I respect that 100%. But this nation, I don't care what you want to believe, it's in the history books. This nation was founded by people that came here for religious freedom, and those people were Christians. They were looking for religious freedom in their way to worship God as they chose, and they believed as God as in Yahweh. And so that is where our founding principles are. So if you want to just say, hey, I'm going to flip, I'm going to say that I am Republican, that I believe all those things, but that's not how you've lived your whole entire life. Conservatives are saying that there's no way those people can legislate by what we believe, by our platform that we've written all this time. And so that, yeah, it's absolutely a divide, and I think it's why more and more of the conservative voice is getting louder and louder and louder, and it's why Donald Trump won. And quite honestly, I'll say it right here on your show to everyone, it's why I will vote for Jan Morgan, and why I believe Jan Morgan should win the governor's race if she'll just enter for us, right, Jan?
yeah, she's got it. She's got to enter. Who knows? Maybe there'll be an announcement, coming the first of the year. She hinted at that at the Craighead County event a couple weeks ago. Melissa, I can't agree with what you said more, and I just want to add the reason. It's disingenuous. Like you said, people have deeply held beliefs that inform the way they're voting. And so for Democrats just all of a sudden switch sides, it just means that they're doing it to maintain power. And we have a specific example of that, with State Representative Joe Jett, who switched parties because the state party.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to hour number 2. My name is Paul. You found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine here. We want you to be a part of the program. Call us or text us 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Welcome to the program. We have in studio Dr. Jim Phillips is with us. He is a dentist. Dr. Phillips, welcome, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, so this segment is kind of a long time coming. I've been covering a story that started back, I guess this was a post back on October 23rd. There was a dentist who posted this on Facebook, and it kind of went viral. Governor's office breaks with tradition, rejects Arkansas State Dental Association nominee for dental board. Is that?
That is accurate.
Okay. And it went in an unprecedented move in modern times. The office of governor has rejected the recommendation of the Arkansas State Dental Association for the Arkansas State Board of Dental Examiners. Now, you, Dr. Phillips, are a former president of the Arkansas State Board of Dental Examiners.
That's correct.
So I'm glad that you came on the program. They rejected the recommended person. Tell us how this happened. You were telling me some of the background, and I want you to be as specific as possible.
Okay. The etiology of this actually began 5 or 6 years ago when a local orthodontist, the name of Ben Burris, decided that he wanted to do more than just orthodontics in his practice. He wanted to do general dentistry. At that time, state law, rules, and regulations prohibited a licensed specialist from doing general dentistry. Obviously, I'm an oral maxillofacial surgeon, and I haven't done a filling since I was in dental school, which is longer than I'd like to remember, 50 years. So you wouldn't want to come into my office and have me do a fill-in or a crown preparation on you because it would be probably a disaster.
Okay.
So this is the reasoning behind the state board that if somebody restricts their practice to a single part of dentistry, then that's by law what they need to stay doing. Dr. Burris decided that he wanted to do general dentistry and hygiene specifically in his practice. Well, this didn't sit well with the general dentist here in town because he would take their patients and do hygiene in his orthodontic office. Sometimes he would do things that they didn't want to do as far as treatment plans. But the bottom line is this became a significant issue. He was brought before the State Board of Dental Examiners, which basically voted against him and censored him for practicing outside of his specialty. Well, apparently this didn't sit very well with Dr. Burris because he enlisted the help of a senator, Jeremy Hutchinson.
The governor's nephew.
The governor's nephew. I understand that this was a cash transfer to initiate this legislation to what we call Open the Dental Practice Act. In other words, the Dental Practice Act is like any other law in Arkansas. It can be amended, but it takes a legislative initiation of an act to amend this. We guard the Dental Practice Act because we don't want other people coming in and making laws that the dentists have to follow that are non-dentist. The dentists over the last 100 years have pretty well protected the rights of their patients, and that's always been the number one thing, is protecting the rights of the patients. Didn't have anything to do with making money. It didn't have anything to do with who was giving the services. It was just the patient that always came first. We were always concerned, the general dentist, that if the Dental Practice Act was opened by somebody that was a non-dentist, legislation would occur that was not in the favor of the patient, and that's exactly what happened. The law was introduced by Senator Hutchinson. It was passed last year, and it significantly changed the Dental Practice Act that had been in place for 100 years.
Okay, that right there is a lot. So what? How did that law? So you're saying something was changed in the law that affected the governor's power and authority to reject or accept what the recommendation of the Dental Association is?
That's exactly right. The original law, again, the one that we're working under, was initiated in 1955, stated that the governor would appoint the members of the State Board of Dental Examiners on advice and consent of the separate districts. For instance, we vetted Lauren Harmon, who is a wonderful general dentist here, to be our representative to the State Board this term. The terms are 5 years. She actually took time out of our practice to went and sit in on some of the State Board meetings to prepare herself, and then we got the notice that she was not going to serve. So the new law that was sponsored by Senator Jeremy Hutchinson reversed the way the assignments were made, where the governor on his own can just decide without the advice and consent of the district.
Okay, so the next question then would be, we're talking, by the way, with Dr. Jim Phillips, past president of the Arkansas State Board of Dental Examiners. The next question would be then, why would the governor, I understand now he has the power because of legislative maneuvering, but why would he reject it? Why would he go with somebody, according to this? Instead, the governor's office appointed Dr. Richard L. Smith of North Little Rock, a non-member of the ASDA and current employee of Monarch Dental. According to records, Dr. Smith has been found by the ASDA to be in violation of the Practice Act on 3 occasions in the early 1990s, the first being overprescribing of narcotics. Why would Governor Hutchinson go with that guy instead of who you guys recommended?
Well, that's the $64,000 question, and I actually can answer that. The organization to which Dr. Burris was attached is called the Association for Dental Support Organization, and it is actually a national organization lobbying for corporate dentistry. And Dr. Burris was a member of this, and there are many corporate dental outlets, if you want to call them, here in Arkansas, and they wanted basically a seat at the table. They wanted to have somebody on the State Board of Dental Examiners that could sway the laws toward the practice of corporate dentistry. So this was the chance to get somebody on there. I'm not sure, well, I am sure that Dr. Smith was not well vetted. I don't know how his name came up, but obviously,
he wasn't
they didn't do a very good job of deciding who was going to represent the Association of Dental Support Organizations on the board. There's probably quite a few of really competent dentists that belong to corporate dentistry in Arkansas, and unfortunately, Dr. Smith, who has a fairly significant record of having his license suspended 3 times, was just a poor choice.
Yeah.
You know, given what's going on in the world today, everybody is saying, well, that happened in the early 90s and he's changed, and we've seen a whole bunch of politicians fall lately because of things that happened 30 years ago. So I'm not sure that personally I think that makes a whole lot of difference, that having your license suspended for narcotics issues doesn't sit well with most of the general dentists.
Yeah, I would agree. So it seems to me that there's a divide in the dental community. You have the corporate side of things, and then you have maybe just sole ownership or maybe limited partnership types of practices. And so I guess this is kind of a jockeying of who's going to get representation. And this is the corporate, kind of set up shop by night operations that are now going to have representation when in the past they didn't. So the question is, especially considering he was vetted so poorly. Let me just be honest, Dr. Phillips. I'm told that in many of these instances, you sit down with the governor's people, and you get informed that, hey, well, we're open for donations. And so the question is was this decision made because of campaign contributions or something like that?
Well, I think there's absolutely no doubt that there was, and I can't tell you when having seen the money change hands, but the story is that this was a substantial donation to the governor's campaign fund through this national organization. Mm-hmm. There's no really other reason because, again, all the general dentists in this state are working for patients' rights. They want to make sure that the patients are treated correctly. When you have a corporate entity, the patient's rights don't come first. It's the corporate bottom line that comes first. And so we just feel as a group, and I can't speak for the Arkansas State Dental Association or the state board, but I can speak for the dentist in this area. We all feel like that's not the way we want to treat our patients.
Mm-hmm. And that was actually my next question. Any potential political ramifications? I mean, is it just the dentists in Northeast Arkansas that are upset, or is this like the entire? That's a pretty big voting block, and the governor's probably going to have a primary opponent in the Republican primary.
Well, that's a great point that you make. We're left without representation in Northeast. The next 5 years at least, we're not going to have a representative on the state board. This is a huge problem for us in the Northeast District. And now the other districts are going, whoa, well, what's going to happen when the next district is elected? Are we going to have a say in that? Well, obviously they're not. So there's 5 positions because there's 5 districts. So, it's a possibility that as long as Governor Hutchinson's making the selections that there won't be any representation from the different districts. So, yeah, this is a real problem, but we're going to help solve this problem because we're going to get into politics. We are a small group in Northeast. We're 180 dentists, and across the state it's about 1,200, but we see a lot of patients. And, we are not happy with what's going on.
Yeah.
And we were going to let our patients know that this governor has not treated the State Board of Dental Examiners appropriately.
All right. Well, I appreciate I don't know if this is a first step or not, but I appreciate you coming on the program and being willing to talk about it, because talking about it is what gets people engaged to hopefully make different choices in the future. So, Doctor,
thank you very much.
Dr. Jim Phillips, I appreciate it, sir. That's great. It's great to meet you. Past president of the Arkansas State Board of Dental Examiners. Folks, we got to take a break. We got the rest of the show for you. Don't go anywhere. Back in just a moment.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media.
This is State Representative Dan Sullivan with a Liberty Moment. Governments do not make ideals, but ideals make governments. This is both historically and logically true. Of course, the government can help to sustain ideals and create institutions through which they can better be observed, but the source of their very nature is in the people. The people have to bear their own responsibilities. There's no method by which that burden can be shifted to the government. It's not the enactment, but the observance of laws that created the character of a nation. President Calvin Coolidge.
Paid for by Sullivan for Arkansas. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
In a world
full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst. How are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. What a fantastic interview with Dr. Jim Phillips. That was great. That was incredible. Matter of fact, I mean, the part in the interview where Dr. Phillips mentioned that it's just common knowledge in the dental community that one dentist just paid. Enlisted the help in some way of Senator Jeremy Hutchinson to pass a law for him. I mean, that's the first time that's ever somebody's publicly. I mean, there's always been speculation, and I've said that's the reason on this program I have said many times before. Can we all agree that you shouldn't make money for like specific legislation? You know, like, can we all agree that you shouldn't be able to, somebody shouldn't be able to say, hey, you're a senator, I want to pay you $100,000, so you go pass this piece of legislation for me. Can we all agree that that's illegal and it shouldn't happen? Okay, good. Let's start from there and move forward. But yet we have a parody about this. Unless your contract, all you have to do is make sure your contract says lobbying services prohibited, and as long as you do, then you're good to go. It's no big deal. As long as your contract says lobbying services are prohibited, an attorney can do whatever they want. Apparently, obviously they've got to be an elected legislator, as well. So, a telephone number 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799 if you would like to contribute to the program. You can call or text or sound off on Facebook. Let me check Facebook real quick. I haven't checked it in a little while. Hang on one second. Hey, Joe, while I'm doing this, are you getting ready for your Conduit for Action quiz? Have you peeked? Have you cheated? Have you even looked at the questions yet? Okay, well, that's good. Because we gotta get make sure Joe doesn't have time to Google anything. I do have one question on Facebook. Mountain Home tomorrow. Is Joe coming? No, Joe is not coming. He has to stay back here and make sure the signal gets out to the other affiliates. I know that's awful. Anytime I do a live remote, it makes Joe's job, like, boring, I feel like, because he's back here. He has to manage the podcast. He has to manage the video stream. He also has to manage the playlist that goes out to terrestrial radio affiliates. Check it out. Somebody says Mountain Home tomorrow. Joe's not coming, but I'm going to be in Mountain Home tomorrow. I'm going to be at doing the broadcast from the Mountain Talk 97 station there in Mountain Home, the headquarters there. Really excited that they're able to have me. And we'll be talking with State Representative Nelda Speaks, who will be about 5. We'll also be talking via phone because Senator Scott Flippo is going to be in Little Rock. We're going to be talking with Senator Scott Flippo as well. I'm excited just to talk to them about a lot of stuff, but as well, what does Christmas mean to them? Because that's always fun to do. And these series are, we're getting more and more of these little short 3-4 minute segments. So that's good. All right, so we've got to take a break here in just a minute. And when we come back, Joe, our board operator, will be taking the Conduit for Action quiz. It'll be Conduit for Action game time. And feel free, go to the website right now, conduitforaction.org. That's conduitforaction.org. And we'll be back here in just a moment. Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching.
Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
He said, if you're going to be a committee chairman, you're going to need to be the majority party that controls that chamber. It's got to match up. You got to have Republican. So he switches parties, and then he gets to maintain his chairman of Revenue and Tax in the House. And so it's just about
which leads
power.
to all of our problems right now, doesn't it?
Do what? Say that again?
That leads to all of our problems right now, doesn't it? Because you cannot. I will never believe he's legislating any differently than he was the last time he was elected.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you're saying, okay, I think you've hit on something big here. That part of the divide is, and I haven't spent as much time on this as I should have, the fact that the party is inviting Democrats to switch parties just to build what? I mean, what are they building? You're building something that has no principles. You're building something, it's like we want to be a big tent, but do we really want to be a big tent when you're going to have, Democrats who've got no problem taxing businesses out of business, who are going to be masquerading now as a Republican? I mean, it's really sad.
Absolutely, 100%. You can look at the current preamble of the Arkansas Party platform, and it says, "God is the source of our rights." And if that's true, if we're reaffirming that God is the source of our rights, right, protected by imperfect souls, relying on God-given gifts to serve their neighbors, then we have to be willing to let go of the control, because God's in control. And if we are walking his path, if our legislators are actually walking his path for this state, then the power to legislate will stay where it's supposed to. And we don't have to power grab by bringing people over that don't truly believe the way we believe. Point blank.
Yeah. Wow. Very well said. Melissa Kohler for our Conservative Future segment. Melissa, thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to have you on again sometime, and we can talk more Arkansas politics. I really appreciate it.
I would enjoy that very much, Paul.
All righty. Well, you have a Merry Christmas if I don't talk to you before then.
Same to you.
All righty. Thank you so much. Melissa Kohler, everybody, from Crawford County.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
All right, welcome back. I just got this text message. Somebody after that amazing interview with Dr. Jim Phillips on what ACE is doing and not doing. Putting people on boards and not obeying the recommendations or the traditional situation compared to the new power he has. It was a great inside baseball. I hadn't heard that until today. Somebody writes in though, bet there is something to nephew Jeremy Hutchinson not running again. Cannot be coincidental. You're exactly right. That is interesting. I mean, the way Dr. Phillips was talking about it was like it was just common knowledge in the dental community, and all those there's a lot of dentists that could make phone calls and say, "Hey, do you know that this is going on?"
For someone who likes the status quo as much as Asa does, I'm surprised he didn't start or keep doing what he was doing or what the status quo was before.
You know what? I am too, but there was a money involved apparently, and so that's all you need to know about that situation. It's time for the Conduit for Action game show where we do the quiz. It's up at conduitforaction.org, and you should check it out. Yes, this is I'm sorry, let me turn this down a little bit.
Yours is loud. Say your music's loud, not your mic.
Yeah, sorry, it even gets on my nerves. So, all right, here we go. Hang on a second. Let me pull this thing up here. Conduit for Action game show, Conduit for Action quiz, conduitforaction.org. Here it is, right here. Here we go. Knowledge is power. Occupational licensing. This is it. This is what we're doing here. Occupational licensing is essential. It's too soon. Occupational licensing is essentially
get control over your music,
the government regulating an occupation for the public safety. It's a government permission slip to work. It takes many forms, such as a license fees, education exam requirement, and age requirements. Now, this is fascinating considering we just talked to, the former president of the head of dental examiners. Okay, now the key here, and this has been my whole problem with regulatory agencies or licensing boards, is if it's about the public safety, I understand. But let's be honest, there are licensing requirements that are more protectionist and not about the public safety. And those are the ones that we have a huge problem with. But Arkansas in general, I think everybody would be fine. Okay, if you want to be a dentist, you got to have a license. I think everybody's okay with that. The vast majority of people are okay with that. But if you want to wash somebody's windows, or you want to braid their hair, or you want, what I'm saying? We have more licensing. We've got some terrible problems here. Okay,
you want to be that guy that stands on the corner as cars drive by and pull up to the red light and want to go up there and spray their window. You can do that.
Or the guys that out there that twirl the signs in front of mattress stores, something like that.
Did they have an occupational licensing?
They're going to at some point. I'm telling you. Now they will. Some occupational licenses are totally legitimate and may even be necessary. Most people think of occupations like doctors, nurses, lawyers, and pharmacists as licensed occupations. However, hundreds of occupations now require a license before a person can start working. Making it harder for a person to engage in an occupation means less people in that occupation. This is called a barrier to entry. Less people in an occupation means less competition. Let's take the survey, shall we? Now, before we do, we're going to review some of our things here, okay? Joe, when you hear this sound, that sound right there means that you are out of time. All right, let's hear it one more time at full volume. Okay, all right, that's basically all you need to know. If you get a correct answer, we like to do that. If you get a wrong answer, we like to boo you. Okay, that's the way we go. We want to publicly shame you.
Going for 100% so I don't hear any boos.
All right, here we go. Where does Arkansas rank overall on the burdens of occupational licensing? A, 20th most broadly and onerously licensed state, 12th, 8th, or 3rd?
If I remember correctly, because this was a question that was on a previous quiz. If I remember correctly, it's 3rd. We rank 3rd.
On a previous quiz, really?
If I remember correctly, because it was just it was a small thing about occupational licensing in a
okay.
I think it ended up being burden upon the people or something like that.
Okay, all right. So you're going with 3rd. Exactly. So that's pretty onerous.
Yeah.
The 3rd most broadly, meaning and
we do have more than New York as a state.
Yeah,
we're probably way up there.
I think some of these questions you could actually just replace occupational licensing with tax policy.
That's true too.
And it'd probably be basically the same answers.
Yeah, I'm going with 3rd.
All right, going with 3rd. Number 2, on average, how much does Arkansas require in fees to engage in regulated occupations in Arkansas? Is it A, $25, B, $100, C, $155, or is it D, $246? Think it out now.
A bunch of people wish it was probably $25, but I'm going to go with $246 because based off of a lot of things that we've already talked about on the show, I'm pretty much going to go with the highest thing possible, or the one that makes us look the worst, because it's probably correct.
All right, well, that sound right there means, sorry, you are out of time. So you're going with D, $246 on average. Question number 3, according to the Institute for Justice, which is the most burdensome occupation in Arkansas due to occupational licensing standards? Is it A, emergency medical technician, B, an optician, C, a truck driver, or D, a fire alarm installer? Which one is it? You just relax. Okay? You just got to relax on this one.
Based off of the different jobs, I'm probably going to go with EMT.
EMT.
I feel like there's a lot more requirements to be an EMT than a, like in terms of occupational licensing, than a fire alarm installer and a truck driver. And I'm assuming an optician see, what's an optician?
That sound means you're out of time.
I don't think it's an eye doctor, because that's
I'm sorry, Joe.
That's something else.
I can't give you help. I'm going to be chastised for cheating. So, all right, question number 4.
You're being chastised for cheating?
I will be. People say that I help you. Did you know this?
I get no help.
People say that I help you too much in our conversations and let you work it out. It's like, were you ever growing up and the teacher would talk to that one student and try to give him hints? It's like, I mean, I was probably that student a lot of times, but I'm just telling you.
I just remember having teachers that say, if you can ask me any question you want, I may not give you the answer you want. So you'd ask very specific questions where the answer is yes or no, and then based off their answer, you could kind of try to infer what they meant.
Question number 4, ranking 3rd worst in the entire country. How many of the 102 lower-income occupations does Arkansas license? 25 of 102, 50 of 102, 60 of 102, or 72 of 102?
I'm going to go with 72.
So ranking 3rd. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about the wording of that question. All right, going with D. 72. I think that's good. Let's go to question 5. Have you subscribed to Conduit for Action's email list to get news surveys and articles automatically sent to your inbox?
Yep.
All right. So let's see what you got out of these 5 questions.
75. I missed one.
You missed one. Which one did you miss?
It was what the heck? Fire alarm installer is the.
I thought you were about to say a bad word.
No, I wasn't.
I'm telling you, I really thought.
What in the world?
All right, so let's go to the top. Let's review. I'm going to give you credit. I'm going to give you credit, okay? All right. Where does Arkansas rank overall on the burdens of occupational licensing? You chose correctly 3rd for most broadly and onerously licensed in this state. So
I was going to say for the number 3, I should have known
better.
Really,
really good, though.
I should have known better.
All right. Scrolling down on 2, on average, how much does Arkansas require in fees to engage in regulated occupations in Arkansas? On average, $246. You answered that one correctly, Joe. Congratulations on that. So
again, should have known better. I should have known better.
Question number 3. This is the one that you missed, and I'm really sad. According to the Institute for Justice, what is the most burdensome occupation in Arkansas due to occupational licensing? And I think you maybe interpreted the question wrong. It's kind of like, which one is the one that's like, are you serious? Because it's the most burdensome, meaning it's a big barrier to entry. If you want to install, so you got this question wrong. You chose EMT, and the correct answer was actually fire alarm installer.
Okay, so
just hang on, listen to the booze.
You're talking about
that's so good.
You're talking about a higher barrier to entry. You'd think EMTs have a higher barrier to entry than a fire alarm installer.
Well, according to the Institute for Justice, fire alarm installer in Arkansas is the most burdensome occupation in Arkansas due to licensing.
So stupid.
According to the Institute for Justice.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
All right, we got to give you more credit. Question number 4, ranking 3rd worst in the entire country. How many of the 102 lower income occupations does Arkansas license? Was it 25 of 102, 50 of 102, 60 of 102, or 72 of 102? Arkansas, you got this right. Arkansas is so burdensome that we license 72 and rank 3rd out of 102. So, but I mean that one's for you, and this one's for the state of Arkansas and politicians that won't do something for the people and actually, stimulate the economy by letting people work.
May I say something?
Yes.
I just want to apologize to all my fans out there. I let you down. This is a question I should have known better about. Pick the one that doesn't make any kind of sense. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I have failed you.
Now, speaking of occupational licenses, if we go over now to Frank Lockwood, get this article out. Frank Lockwood writing that job licensing is burdensome, according to the Arkansas Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin discussed occupational licensing with the U.S. Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta last week during a meeting at the Labor Department headquarters. Okay? Acosta argues that licensing requirements have spiraled out of control in recent decades. It's a concern that Griffin shares. The Labor Secretary recently launched an initiative to identify areas in which occupational licenses hinder job growth. A former Arkansas state representative is helping with the project. In 1950, only about 1 in 20 jobs required a license. Today, more than 1 in 4 Americans need a license to legally perform their work, Acosta told the American Legislative Exchange Council in Denver. While licensing can be used to protect public health and safety, it should be used simply to limit competition. It shouldn't be used to simply limit competition, bar entry, and create a privileged class. Okay, that's according to the Secretary Acosta. Then they mentioned the Institute for Justice, which we were just talking about some of their findings. It's a Virginia-based nonprofit that battles for what it calls economic liberty. It recently ranked Arkansas as being the third most broadly and onerously licensed state. The Libertarian group's study was highlighted last month in the pages of the Wall Street Journal. A list of the worst-scoring states was prominently displayed. In the Wall Street Journal, Arkansas, open for business. No, Arkansas, third most honestly licensed state. The institute, which helped convince Arkansas lawmakers in 2015 to eliminate licensing for natural hair braiders, says Arkansas requires licenses for 72 of the 102 professions it reviewed. It goes on here. Jennifer McDonald, one of the authors of the Institute for Justice report, said unnecessary licensing harms workers as well as consumers. Quote, folks who are just trying to put meat on the table are trying to enter these occupations, and they're being kept out of these overly burdensome licensing laws. They're being kept out by the licensing laws. So it's bad for them and their families. Occupational licensing in general is also bad for the economy because it allows licensed workers to increase their prices by keeping competition out of their occupation. In an interview, Tim Griffin said Arkansas should review all of its licensing requirements. Quote, we certainly, in many areas, need occupational licensing, but we need to make sure that they make sense, that they're reasonable, that they're rational. Not all the ones that we have are. Now, let's just stop for a second. Do you really think Arkansas ranking third most burdensome in occupational licensing, according to this study, you think that's in agreement with the political or ideological convictions of the people in this state? It's a relic of when the Democrats had control, and unfortunately the Democrat policies still have control of this state, and Republicans with massive majorities are not doing anything to stand up to make real change, the real reform that we voted on over and over and over again. He goes on to say, make no mistake, this is a jobs issue, and it's one that we need to address. Griffin expressed particular concern that the licensing requirements presents barriers to well-qualified spouses of military personnel who have practiced their profession in other states. An in-depth analysis of Arkansas's licensing standards can't hurt, he said. Quote, if people are confident we have it right, then there's no harm in taking a look at it and making sure. We ought to review them one by one. Now that is a task force I could get behind, reviewing each one line by line, and then coming up with one bill to get rid of all of the ones that make no sense, that are not truly in the public's interest, but are in the I don't know. The concept of just trying to protectionist, and that sort of thing. Okay, we're going to take a break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program, brought to you by Conduit Media. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell program and Conduit Media.
Do you need
conservative legislation killed?
Or do you need policies enacted that ensure government growth?
Then you need to get
Nephewed. Hi, I'm nephew number 1 of uncle, nephew, and nephew, attorneys at law. I'm not a lawyer, but I am a senator.
And I'm nephew number 2, and I am a lawyer and also a senator.
Are you the victim of a recent accident in which the voters in your community mistakenly elected a limited government conservative who is now actually implementing the ideas he or she campaigned on?
That's right, nephew number 1. Don't be a victim of democratic elections any longer. At Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew, we are committed to killing limited government legislation and promoting bills that increase the size of government by using any tool at our disposal.
Because sometimes the truth of the matter is, principles get in the way of pragmatism.
Just listen to some of our great testimonials.
Ever since I've been using the nephews, all my special interests have been served. As long as you make sure your contract says lobbying services are prohibited, then the legal services of uncle, nephew, and nephew are legal. Trust me, put the nephews on them.
It came out of nowhere. I was blindsided last election cycle when my well-funded and paid-for politician lost to some grassroots limited government voters. But then I hired the nephews, and they killed all the conservative policies the voters wanted. I got nephewed.
I got nephewed too, and so can you.
Uncle, nephew, and nephew will accept compensation via campaign contributions.
Put the nephews on them.
PHP Parody.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
All right, Merry Christmas, everyone out there. Thank you for being with us. Real quick, following up, we mentioned this briefly, but the good folks at Greenbrier have it's weird, they have an Independence County state representative to thank for their taxes likely going up. Greenbrier is going to propose an increase to fund city projects. Earlier this week, Greenbrier aldermen passed 3 ordinances to go before residents in a special election regarding a sales tax increase to help fund 2 city projects. The projects at hand include a $2.2 million bond debt to finance the renovation or construction of a new fire station, $3.8 million bond debt to finance park facilities and other related improvements. Mayor Sammy Jo Hartwick said Greenbrier's fire station hasn't seen improvements in nearly 50 years. He said the goal of the project is to renovate and expand the current facility to house larger fire trucks at the Greenbrier Fire Department located at 6 North Broadview Street. It's not going to be so much of a demolition. We'll be keeping the current blah, blah, blah. The city plans a transition, volunteer firefighters. So officials are asking residents to vote in favor of a 0.3% sales and use tax increase to help fund the bonds. Thanks a lot, State Representative James Sturch. This one goes out to you. You fantastic state representative, you who killed special election reform that would have ended this. And in doing so, I blanked the other day when I was trying to remember the statistics of the pass-fail rate, okay? So according to the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, the local sales tax elections from 1981 to 2016, if it was done in the general election, okay, you had 44% voter turnout. Okay, if it's done in a special election, you have 19% voter turnout. Okay, 44% voter turnout in a general election. If you try to pass a tax increase from 81 to 2016, you have a 45% chance of it passing, so it's likely going to fail. If you do it in a general or a special election, you have an average of 19% voter turnout with a 77% chance of passage on a tax increase. Thank you, James Sturch. Now, apparently James Sturch is comfortable with that kind of soft tyranny, with arranging your elections to make sure government can grow, and people who work in government who have an interest in seeing it grow so they don't have to take a pay cut, where they get what they want, and the people, the consent of the governed, the snapshot. These elections are snapshots of what we consent to, are thwarted, are undermined. It is a fraud. Special elections are a fraud. They are, in my opinion, a disgrace. And anybody who supports them, I don't see how. You're just doing it because you're like, well, the ends justify the means, and you don't really have respect for your fellow citizens. You may think you're serving them, but if you're one of these people that gets out there and does these special elections, you really don't respect the process, and you don't respect the people. You don't respect this concept of we're all going to decide the best we can how much money of ours is going to go to the government. And, yeah, I'm casting assuming worse motives. That's because I want some of you out there that are willing participants in this fraud to think about what your motivations really are. Just to think about what's really right and what's wrong in a situation like this. These numbers, according to this study, are egregious. And they're only doing this, a 77% chance of passage, they're only doing this to go around the will of the people, not respect it. And that is, in my opinion, deception. It's wrong. It is morally wrong. Anyway, we're going to wrap the show up. We appreciate you listening. This portion of the Paul Harrell program, this broadcast, is available for you over at paulharrell.com, as well as archived on our Facebook Live page, facebook.com/PaulTalkShow. So feel free to get all the content there. And if you want to help continue this experiment in Arkansas Talk Radio, feel free to go click on Get More Content at paulharrell.com and follow us our Patreon page and consider becoming a Liberty Machine engineer, a producer, or a Conduit Media insider. Okay, we got to go, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Merry Christmas. Get your shopping done.